Macros, knobs, dials, a touchscreen, you know, this is right up my alley. What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and today we're checking out the AVerMedia Nexus, which is this all-in-one control center for your live streams, YouTube, Twitch, a very interesting device that is supposed to combine, a Stream Deck with the touchscreen here with something like the GoXLR. So first up, let's be real for a second, because AVerMedia has been in the game for quite some time now, and mainly being known back in the day for their capture cards and competing with Elgato. This following suit because now they're getting deeper into the streaming market with this all-in-one streaming controller. Like I said, pretty much combining the Elgato Stream Deck with something like the GoXLR. Once you get it in and unboxed, I'd say all things considered, it's pretty compact. It won't take up too much room on your desktop. Keeping it organized is always a challenge as it is, but at just 8.5 inches wide and 5.5 inches deep, I think the control center is sized, just right for the usability. And right away, you can see the multi-functionality it boasts with 6 dials, 4 physical pads, and a built-in 5-inch IPS touchscreen display. So again, when it comes to streaming, the versatility here with the controls should only make your job easier. Included for you inside the box is a magnetic kickstand to prop it up towards you, a USB Type-B to Type-A cable, a 3.5mm TRS cable, 1/4-inch adapter, and the power adapter. And since it uses to control different sources and different gear, getting it properly set up with your equipment is all done through the backside where the I/O is tucked away, slightly recessed into the device itself. You have a 3.5mm line in and line out on the back right, a balanced XLR and 1/4-inch combo jack, an additional 3.5mm line in jack, an optical audio in, the USB port, DC power port, and then a physical power switch. Then plugging it in and powering it on, you're met with an RGB light ring that goes around the sides, the 6 dials light up, as well as the 4 rubber pads. Then that screen is now able to be configured and customized in their Nexus software. The dials do have tactile steps to them as you turn it up and down, and the LED light above it will reflect the current percentage. These dials can also be clicked in to mute the source. And as for those 4 pads, I'll just tell you right now, I hate these. I think they're way too big. Like, having only 4 here in this space just seems kind of pointless to me. Definitely would have preferred having more screen real estate, if anything, here. And when you press down those pads, it always reverts to either going to like one of the sides first and then actuates. It's never a clean press down. It's just mushy. I hate it. No bueno. And also, my bottom right pad, it gets stuck in every time I press it in. Then I have to physically pop it back up from the sides every single time. Big yikes. So with the physical buttons out of the way, if it's not obvious enough already, that touchscreen is where a lot of the versatility is going to come in. Really let you customize this, and it's what I'm most excited for. So let's focus on that for a minute. Here's a 20-block grid for adding functions, hotkeys, scene switching, launching graphics, or really whatever sort of streaming macro you would need to do. It's a 5x4 block grid, and just like we see with the Stream Deck, it's all drag and drop in the software. You're currently only limited to 5 pages per profile, and there's currently nothing like folders you can add. So you do currently have a limit of 100 blocks per profile, but you can add multiple different profiles. I don't know how many, but I can see them though adding infinite pages and folders and stuff in the future. And when it comes to configuring the screen, it's kind of like adding widgets from your smartphone, where you have the grid, some widgets are larger than others, you can place them down, it'll take up more space. But this is where the Nexus really comes to life, I think. You can choose to either show the grid on the screen, or just keep it the icons of the functions. You can do things like add GIFs or upload wallpapers to the back of the screen if you want. Anything to really personalize it, which is nice. But what I think is really cool is the integration it has with some of your streaming apps. Inside the Nexus software, which I'll dive into in just a minute, you can see things like Streamlabs OBS, OBS Studio, YouTube, Twitch, functions for the Nexus itself, system functions, their rec control, and even Spotify. So you just drag and drop, you can rename each function or upload your own image or GIF for it. Again, just like we see with the Stream Deck. But one cool thing I really like is with their expanded widgets, for example. With like YouTube and Twitch, you can drag things like current viewers, total subscribers, and even have a live chat box on the display itself. They do take up more room than your standard 1 block here, but I just like the visual of having those extra stats right here at a glance. I will say from my time testing though, chat did seem to be about 10 seconds behind the real-time chat on YouTube, and the viewer count isn't real-time at all. It was always about 10 to 15 viewers off, and it would only update every like 30 seconds or so, but it was never an actual real-time counter like we have in the YouTube Live Studio. Also, as you can kind of see, the chat would flash every now and then when a new message would pop up, which at first was distracting, but I feel like this could be fleshed out and kind of polished in an update, so it's not as annoying to see. But again, even though chat was slightly delayed, it's still there. So if you don't have a second monitor with chat pulled up, it's just now going to give you an extra opportunity to read and interact. And I would always play my game windowed and then have chat off to the side to read it, but with this, I don't have to. Some other cool integrations with Spotify. They natively have full media controls you can add, as well as, like a playing now widget, so it shows you the track, the artwork, the duration of the song. It's really no different than what pops up on your screen anyway when you're changing tracks, but again, having that here on the secondary display, I think is cool for visual sake. I will say though, again, the Spotify integration as a whole is kind of hit or miss. Skipping tracks takes about a second or so delay to register. It's not a big deal, but I would like it to be less sluggish. And then for whatever reason, my pause key was always grayed out, and it would not let me use this to pause a track. I don't know if that's a bug or what it was going on, but I literally could not pause music using the touchscreen. However, if I assigned the pause track to one of the physical buttons for one of the pads, then it would work, and then I could pause the track, just not using the button on a touchscreen. Very, very odd. One thing I would personally love to see is the ability to make this entire 5-inch display a reference monitor of your stream. So I don't know if they'd have to add like an HDMI to the back in the future for this, or if it can just be a widget that integrates with the current streaming app that you're using. But being able to see your stream in real time here, I think would just be really, really cool. And it would also be great for people who only have one monitor and have no way of actually checking how their stream looks. So again, maybe they'd have to add an HDMI in the back to plug it into your computer to act as a secondary monitor. But again, not even for streaming necessarily. Just having this be a secondary display, I think would be really cool. Now, even though it's the most boring part of reviews, when it comes to configuring this, software is extremely, extremely important. So we're gonna head back to the PC and show you the Nexus software and how to get this really set up and customized. Okay, so now I'm going to run you through the Nexus software, which is, yes, like I said, not the most interesting thing, but it's how you configure everything. You get it all set up. And as you can see, it's visually not the most appealing, definitely a bit dated. Yes, I like it to be a bit more clean and modern, but at the same time, it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of navigation and getting things set up. Very similar to the Elgato Stream Deck software when that first launched, in a sense where everything is drag and drop for the hotkeys and widgets. So I'll bring you to a clean page real quick just to show you. And again, you want to launch different websites, apps, hotkeys, multimedia, all drag and drop. You can go in, reassign what the function is, rename it, as well as redo the logo, whatever displays as that function. You can also do things like scale the image, fit the screen, fit to the image to itself, and boom, right there you can see in the app, it updates. Very, very easy. One thing I didn't show you before is the mixer dashboard, which is pretty much a redundant visual example of your 6 dials on the Nexus itself. So when you actually, let me go to the audience mix, when you change your different sources and stuff, you could see those levels update real time. And that's cool if you want to get, an actual finite number to what the actual dial is instead of just going by the LEDs on the dials. Again, not the most useful thing. It's pretty redundant as a whole, but it does, work well if you do want to see those numbers. Now, I'm going to go into the software settings because this is where, most of the configuring is going to come in as well. For membership, it's just tying your different accounts and stuff so it can register to the actual software and, be linked to your different profiles. General is just a lot of the software updates and little things like that. Hardware, though, this is where it starts to, get more into it. So for the touchscreen, you can configure the whether it goes to sleep or not, adjust the brightness, the grid, as well as the different backgrounds for it. So you can upload the pictures, and then it'll save 5 here in the software for you. So that's where you can go in and do all of that. Next up for function keys, that's the 4 pads on the Nexus. You can have them be the color of the icon that you assign, a solid color that you pick, or if you want to just turn them off, you can. I keep it icon color, so it's kind of color coordinated. Below that is volume indicators. This is where it gets interesting because for those 6 actual dials, you can have them all be one color. You can't assign different colors to different sources for the 6 dials, which I think is kind of, like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want to do that? So you can, in your head, color coordinate what each of those dials are. But at this time, at least, you can't. One thing you can do, though, is have the dials be sort of like a real-time level and volume indicator. However, it only works for the audience mix, which is kind of interesting. So I could see here on the device the actual real-time levels of my mic And it's very buggy, again, because it only works for my mic when I'm playing a game, when I have music going on through Spotify, which would ordinarily be either the game chat, the game dial or the system dial. That all stays blank. So the mic does work, but again, it's not the most useful because it's still kind of slow and kind of lagging behind. Then you have these surround lights for controlling the RGB that goes around it with that strip. You can have it scroll RGB, blink, pulse, solid color, or turn it off. It's not the most useful. I would keep it a solid color if I were you. But below that, again, also kind of buggy and interesting, is the interactive effect, where you can have the streaming light be a certain color and a recording light be a certain color. So when you're streaming, this will be a certain color, or recording, that whole thing. So I thought, that would act like a tally light, where when I was live, everything would go red to let me know, okay, I'm live. But that's not how it worked. And I tested it with both streaming and recording, and in either case, it did not go to the solid red like I have it set. So I think a visual tally light would have been a great idea. If that's what this is trying to be, cool, but it's not working. So again, it's still very, very early on in the software, but I would like to see that be an actual visual tally light for me. And then at output, you can go in and reassign what you want the sample rate of the mixer to be. It's capable of 24-bit 96,000 hertz or 24-bit 48,000 hertz. And most of your streaming and recording software out there is most compatible with 48,000, so I would keep it that. You could change what your line-out mix is from your creator mix, audience mix, and chat mix, because you do have different sub-mixes, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then your chat mic, you can have it pretty much output with the effects you can assign or without the effects. And I always go without the effects. So we're going to bring it back over here, because one of the things you can do with this, which is pretty cool, is have your dual mix, different sub-mixes for your creator mix, your audience mix, and then reassign each individual one to what you hear versus what they hear. Again, things for chat mix, game mix, system mix, console mix, if you're using this with like a Xbox or a PS4, your line in, and your mic. You can assign all those different levels. So for example, when you're streaming, I could listen to Spotify, play music I want to play, but have it so the audience mix does not hear that, and I could play something like royalty-free music for you guys to hear that I won't. So having different submixes is definitely useful. It's not laid out in the most visually, appealing way, and there's no way to link either of these, which is what you can do with things like the Elgato Wave software, their Wave Link. That makes it really easy to link them, so when you adjust, one mix, it does it for the other mix as well. So you do have those different submixes, and I'll show you right here. You can see for audience mix, as I was telling you before about the actual volume indicator, you can see my levels for the mic, but it's not the most useful because it's very slow and sluggish, and yeah, that's not the most useful. So I could see what my actual volume level is here, and you can go in to adjust it, but you don't really have any sort of indicator. It's just right above for the mic mix, and the gain mix you can adjust from 0 to 10. It's just not the most intuitive, okay? And then also for your different microphone types, I have a dynamic mic with the MB7, so that's enabled. You can also enable the XLR condenser mic if you need that, which requires phantom power, or a 6.3 millimeter, like if you're using the combo jack in the back to plug in a mic or a headset that way. You have all that right there. And then you can also do things with your mic and enable things like equalizers, different echo effects, reverb, compressors, noise gate, that kind of stuff. And you can also go in then and adjust all that into a different sort of menu here, which gives you different EQ control for your bass, mids, trebles. You can go through some of the preset ones. But what's interesting is, if you want to have a cool voice effect like echo or reverb, you have the option here to enable that. But then there's no way to assign that to an actual widget to drag and drop onto your Nexus, which is kind of stupid, because you would think if I want to just if something happens where I want to have my voice sound weird for a minute just to add that extra effect, I could toggle it on and off real quick, but you can't. There's no widget for that. You have to go in and manually do it in the software. So you have to have the software pulled up to do that. Again, it's things that can be fixed and improved in the future, but kind of annoying right now that it is not readily available. So I mentioned it before, but lots of stuff here is sluggish. It's lagging behind a little bit, like I showed you before with the chat and the real-time subscribers and stuff, or the real-time viewers and stuff. It's very sluggish and behind. I do expect a lot of this to be updated and, kind of polished going forward, because this is the launch day one software. So again, running you through it, you do have a lot of, versatility and flexibility with what you can do and customize and control, but it just needs to be, pushed a step further, I think, to really take advantage and use a lot of these sort of widgets and hotkeys to the most potential that would benefit you while you're streaming or live streaming. And by the way, this is what you're hearing right now is all plugged in with my microphone, which is the Shure MB7. I mentioned it before, but yes, this is plugged into the back, so everything's controlled, and what you're hearing is all done through here, a dynamic microphone. So I'll be the first to admit that obviously I'm not a streamer. I'm not a full-time streamer. My job is making reviews here on YouTube. So I'm possibly not, the best person to give you my full 2 cents on the whole ins and outs and how this would actually, be used from a daily live streamer. But what I can tell you is, just like I said, from my experience using this I had this for 2 weeks now, and using it sort of as like a daily device on my desktop, launching different, macros, functions, different integrations and stuff, like I said. So using it that way. And like I said, with Spotify, very buggy. When I was streaming, the integration with YouTube and stuff, kind of lagging, kind of behind. But I'm also not somebody who really can give you the full rundown on the internals and stuff. I know there's some talk out there about the preamps in this not being powerful enough to run some of the top tier mics out there, like the Shure SM7B, the RE20. There's different speculation on what it can and can't run in terms of the power of the preamps. I know for me though, with my dynamic mic, the MB7, it was fine. I even had it turned down -2 decibels because then it was peaking. So for my use case, it was okay. So unless you have one of those, top 1% microphones that are very expensive and very power hungry, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be able to push it to its fullest potential, obviously. But again, for me and my mic, it sounds fine. I will say though, with the preamps, there was a fair bit of, at least on my end, a noticeable noise floor, a very slight hiss that I know is noticeable, but to the stream, it probably wasn't, because once I was gaming and stuff, the game audio in the back, you couldn't hear it. If you're playing music, you're not gonna be able to hear that, and nobody, when I was streaming, brought it up either. So that sounded fine for me, but again, I did want to point it out that I noticed a significant noise floor, definitely humming going on. So this is one of those cases where I really want to like this, but I can't in its current state. It's not me, it's you. So hopefully later on down the line, again, I understand this is day one launch software that should improve over time, yes, but right now there's just too many things holding it back. It's 1 step forward, 2 step back. Oh, this is cool, it can do that, but it's slow and lagging. Oh, that's a cool feature. Oh, but it can only do that. It's that type of thing. And it's also $350, where you look at sort of the landscape of these streaming devices. The GoXLR and the XLR Mini, those are upwards, and that's I think around $450. Stream decks anywhere from $100 to $200. Their prices are always fluctuating, and they have 3 different models and stuff. So this is that sort of in-between spot where it would make sense, because it's combining the best of both worlds in a way, but it's still just limiting at the moment. So who's this gonna be for? Somebody who sees the potential of the touchscreen as well as the dials. Definitely not those buttons. Again, those 4 pads are terrible. I would have much preferred they ditch them altogether and expand the screen. That would have been great. Or maybe just give us a few sliders there. I know with the dials, you don't really need sliders, but during a stream, having a slider is just more, a lot more smooth when it comes to manually crossfading, whether it's, a song or an effect. Being able to manually just drag that down or up is a lot smoother than turning a dial, which is increments of 5. So I prefer sliders personally over dials, but again, I wish I could just ditch those 4 buttons, expand the screen altogether, and it's just too laggy right now. Hopefully the software will smooth that out over time. But man, getting choked up. $350. Can't say yes right now, unfortunately. So keep an eye on it. And if you want to, track the roadmap, there are future plans for it and all that stuff, I'll have a link for you in the description down below. But that'll wrap it up for my review of the AVerMedia Nexus. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, give this video a big thumbs up, show your support. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at randomfrankp. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope y'all enjoyed. Have a good day.